Right, well, good morning everybody. Morning. Now, the last time I did this presentation I wore a ridiculous Santa outfit with legs hanging out here, and I decided to not do the silly time. I'm going to do it a little bit more professionally today. And what I did is I danced onto the stage, and when I went to grab the microphone I broke a printer that's in this bag here. Now, we at CSL call these Trojan horses. You've got to pretend and use your imagination. This is a HP 476DN. This is, I've got, in those envelopes you've all got today, I've got the results of a print audit I completed for somebody. Now, a print audit's a very, very simple process. The first visit is to establish what printers you've got. Obviously, write down the makes and models that you have. And what most people don't realise is that you can actually get a meter reading or a usage page, a status page from your printer, which will give you a meter reading. So that's what I do on visit one. Now, if you're a slightly larger business that has multiple printers and they're all networked, I've got this little USB pen called a print audit pen. And what that does, as long as all the printers you've got on your network are all networked, I can plug this in and it will create a CSV file and name and populate all of the printers that you've got along with the meter reading in a spreadsheet for me. If you've just got one printer that's got a liquid crystal display, often you can go into the menu and actually get the meter reading off there. There is one business here, Nicola and Diane, I did that for them. The volumes they were doing weren't particularly high, so in that one instance, which is quite rare actually, I wasn't able to save them any money. Now, if you open your envelopes now that Santa's arrived, this is about as silly as it's going to get this time. Right, I'm going to go through all the pieces of paper that are in there. First of all, the first one should be a 5% coverage example. Now, what that means is if you buy a cartridge for your printer and it says on the side, and it often does, 4,000 page yield, it means 4,000 page yield at 5% coverage, which is quite unrealistic. If you look at how much ink's on that piece of paper, there's not very much on it. And 4,000 pages, if it was a £40 cartridge, that's a penny a page. So as you can imagine, some of your documents will be costing 4, 5, 6 pence just for a black page. But for the purposes of the audit, and what I do is I only use 5% as the example. And I do that, if you go on to the next page, this was actually a live study that's now a customer of mine. I'd use an independent website to establish what the real running costs of that printer are. This one particular website actually does all that for me. I just copy and paste it and then deliver back to you, this is what your printer's costing. In this one instance, this Hewlett-Packard 476 was costing 1.6 pence for a black page and 10.9 pence for a colour page. So I then went and had a second visit about 4 weeks later. We tried to do a whole working month because most businesses have peaks and troughs throughout the month. Often, obviously, peaks towards the end when it's payroll and you're printing other documents off. So then once I've established the volume and I've established what the running costs are of your printer, I'll put together a very simple one sheet, a cost analysis, which you can see there, the volume that they were doing, the cost, and in this one particular instance, I'd calculated we were going to save them £589 a year, and that's with renting the machine and having a service contract. Now, if you're perhaps a small business, I'm just going to briefly explain the service contract. And the way that works is that obviously we supply you with a printer, and once a month or once a quarter, depending on what billing schedule you want, we'll take another meter reading and we bill you at a cost per black and a cost for colour if it happens to be a colour device. Now, once you actually have a printer from us, we use a piece of software called CS Remote, so we can remotely get those meter readings without having to bother you. This also is a very, very good tool for us to monitor the actual printer. So if you phone up and say there's a problem with your printer, we can dial into the printer. We can't see any of your personal data, but it's a bit like the AA plugging into your car, being able to see every single part of the engine, including the feeder rollers on the outside of the machine which pulls the paper up. If we then establish a part's required, then what we go is straight down to the vehicle management tool to dispatch one of our engineers to you, and we can see exactly where they are on a live Google map. Now, if we've already identified a particular part required to fix your machine up here, we'll right click on the engineer that's closest to you and just check his live car stock as well to make sure he's got the part. If he hasn't got the part, we'll move on to the next closest engineer. The intention being that we obviously want to get to you quick and we want to fix it the first time as well, because often people don't think about the printers until they go wrong, and then you realise just what an integral part of your business it is if you can't print documents out. And in a lot of instances, documents can actually be your product as well. Roger. We only use genuine parts, and the reason we do that is because we get a warranty from the manufacturer. Whilst you're on a service contract, we guarantee that if we can't fix the machine, if a network board were to go down or something that wasn't general wear and tear, except for a wall falling onto it, then that's your insurance and that's obviously your responsibility, then we will replace the machine for 5 years from the day you bought it. So you get a 5-year machine replacement guarantee. Now, when I'm establishing what is the most appropriate machine for you, it's quite important that I establish the volumes that you're doing, because as you move up through the range of machines, they have higher handling capacities. And if it happened to be that your business was doing 20,000 pages a month, you wouldn't thank me if I actually then supplied you with a machine that's guaranteed to do 12,000 from the manufacturer's recommendations. Reason being is you'd see an engineer a lot more often than you should be seeing an engineer. Now, CSL are quite a unique independent, because a lot of independents will sell 2 or 3 different brands of machines, whereas we don't. We only sell one, which is Konica Minolta. So we do everything from like the big floor standing machines to, we do a lot of smaller printers as well, not quite as small as that, but certainly equivalent to what you may have if you work from home as well. So moving on from the cost analysis, the final page that you've got in there is actually a testimonial from that customer. Now, once I'd put the proposal together, what he did is he actually spoke to his accountant and said, can you tell me how much we've been spending, please, on our inks and stuff, because I've got this cost analysis and I want to check, which is always a good idea to do so. And his accountant came back and actually said, you're not going to save £589 a year, you'll save more, around £700 a year. And that's because I didn't inflate the figures. I used the 5% coverage, because if I'm going to offer you a saving, I want that to be a minimum saving that you're going to have. And in this one particular instance, he thanked me for it. He's now a good customer of mine, and I know the data protection laws come in next year. I did ask his permission, and he's more than happy for me to have shared this information with all you guys. And finally, every single one of you has now got Santa's offering you a free print audit on behalf of CSL. Now, that can be for your business, or it may be even another business that you may be friends with that might say, oh, we're spending far too much on inks. And all I would ask is that perhaps you hand it on to somebody and then let me know. Then what I will generally tend to do after that will be to take one of my desk pads in and write for the attention of, hi, so-and-so is giving me your details. Please feel free to get in touch if ever you need help with printers or copiers. So if it's a big business and there's a reception area, I won't even ask for that person to come. I'll just drop it in at reception, because I'm a true believer in it's hard selling is not what I'm about. I am basically, my view is that I'm there to help businesses to make sure they've got the most efficient type of printing possible, and that it doesn't cost them more than it should do. I don't know how I'm doing for time, but that more or less concludes my introduction today to print audit, which I could offer to every single one of you. Or, like I say, if you know of a business that is spending a lot of money on printing, we do the big machines as well, and I'll keep on harking about doing the small ones, but we do everything. And we also do large format printers as well. And that's Nick from CSL Business Machines. And that's my message delivered to you today. Has anybody got any questions?
Is there any reason why you use just the one product?
Well, we have sold other brands in the past. Then we find that the engineers can't get all of the spare parts in the vehicles. So then you've got to then split engineers up and say, oh, that will be the Panasonic engineer or the Ricoh engineer, and that one's the Konica one. And it just gives us continuity. And of the different brands we've sold over the years, we've always sold Konica. And we've got a fantastic relationship with them, great support from them. The guarantees they give us are the best as well. So it just gives us continuity. All the engineers are trained on the same product and they can carry all the spare parts